Subject, as you know, the liberating power of mind. Mind power is something to be desired, but only if it can liberate us from attachment to this worldly consciousness and this worldly existence. This material universe, this great creation, is none other than from God's consciousness and His power, or we might say from the mind of God, this cosmic dream. But this great illusion is simply a product of God's consciousness, cosmic consciousness, plus His cosmic energy, or the manifestation of divine mind, if you would call it that. Divine consciousness is better, but most people understand it as divine mind. So if God has created this great universe from His mind, and we are made in His image, we too have tremendous power of mind if we can but utilize it and use it especially to liberate us from this bondage. Thought is a tangible force. Thought is a force, if one can utilize it, that even the elements can be controlled. Just remember how God has made all things, universe upon universe, by His own power of mind. So can we, because we are made in His image. You remember, I know many of you do, how Professor James created blisters by the power of mind. And so all things, or many things, are possible by utilizing the liberating power of mind. Especially I like to use the word liberating because that's what we are trying to be rid of, attachment to this worldly consciousness which keeps us limited, so that we can attain our true freedom, which is oneness with God. And so realize that as God has created all things from His one great source of power, His mind, so can we. So can we do likewise, because we are made in His image. In the autobiography we read these words: all scriptures proclaim that the Lord created man in His omnipotent image. We're made in the image of God. Therefore we have this power that God has, especially if we utilize His great source of energy. If we unite our limited mind with His great cosmic mind, then there's no limit, so to speak, of the application of the power of mind toward liberation. And he goes on, control over the universe appears to be supernatural, but in truth such power is inherent and natural in every being who attains right remembrance of his divine origin. There's the key. People try to do things by the power of mind instead of realizing that one point, the right remembrance of his or her divine origin. Then you can do something about it. Let us realize these words of wisdom. And so, if we are to utilize the liberating power of mind, we must remember this law of mind and never forget it. It is what we are today is the product of what we thought in the past. And what we will be in the future will be the result of how we're thinking today. When I say thinking, I mean thinking and acting, especially if we are more and more realizing our oneness with God. Then in the future we're going to amount to something. But if we keep on carrying on our work and daily living, being attached to matter, we're going to be just that in the future, are we not? So remember those words in the AY. It depends on our remembrance, the right remembrance of our divine origin. Those are wonderful words. So our bodies, as I have said, are literally the result of the product of our right thinking. Now those of you who are too thin as we listen to the AY, want to get fat, think right. And those of you who are too fat, think right but eat right. Let's not forget the law of calories that I hear so much about. I heard them saying the other day, this costs so much. Costs so much. Costs so much. And I was wondering what the women meant by that. Has so many calories. Costs so much. Butter, so too expensive. Nuts and such things, and chocolate. My goodness, chocolate was way up on the list. Too many calories. So, we must not only utilize the power of mind, but we must use common sense, because we're made in the image of God, and as such, we should realize that and be sensible. So, this brings us to this one important point, is this. That if you are going to utilize the liberating power of mind, keep the mental pattern right. Keep the mental pattern right. Realize that. Whatever pattern you keep in your mind, whether it applies to your body or your mind or your soul, is going to bear fruit. So you can see it's very important to keep the pattern right. Even if you want to be thin, keep the pattern right. Keep that in your mind, it will work. Especially if you utilize God's power with it, which I'll come to in a minute. And so, if you believe that you are going to retain your youth and vigor and keep the mental pattern right and everlastingly keep at it, it will be so. Because your powerful mind has an effect on the cells of your body. And the nervous system is made up of cells, do not forget that. And the nervous system is that which the mind utilizes to carry out its desires. So realize that the cells of your body are under control of that pattern which you keep in your mind. And if you have that pattern to be strong and healthy and avoid sickness and old age, and you keep the pattern right and keep at it, especially if you couple your power with God's power, it will be so. Realize that. And so also in the mental realm, if you believe that you're going to be strong mentally, and you stick to it, keep the pattern right, it will be so. And also in the region of the soul, if you firmly believe that you will be able to overcome soul's ignorance and realize your oneness with God and keep at it and keep the mental pattern right, it will be so. Because we are made in the image of God. And so the important thing to remember is keep that mental pattern right. You look at people, you see them all down in the mouth and no good. Why? Because their mental pattern is just that. And you see others happy, struggling along, trying to do the best they can. They keep the mental pattern as best they can, and they will come out of that. And they will amount to something in the future. So this mental pattern is very, very important. Now, our thoughts, the thoughts which we have, can lead us in one of two directions. They can lead us toward outward consciousness with its limitations, or they can lead us toward God, wherein there are no limitations except His will. And so, if we keep our thoughts in outward consciousness, attached to outward consciousness, the end product will be delusion, because the truth is not in outward consciousness. But if we keep our thoughts toward God, the result will be what? Liberation. Liberation from attachment to this world existence. Freedom. And the great omniscience of God. And so realize that our thoughts play a very important part. And they can lead us either to the slavery of worldly living or to the divinity which is within each and every one of us. We have that power. It works imperceptibly. But you watch it and you'll see people change. Some change slowly, some quickly. But the change will come according to the thoughts which flow through their consciousness. because God created this universe from thought. And so we can, if we keep our thoughts right, especially in God, the result must be toward our liberation from delusion. Therefore, perhaps the greatest point I'd like to bring out this morning is this, that we should realize the spiritual laws which release the liberating power of mind. These are more important than even keeping the pattern right. Realize the spiritual laws which cause the liberating power of mind to be freed and to be utilized. Now, the first is God realization. God realization is the greatest thing, because if you keep yourself united with Him, it will release sufficient power within you, mental power, to keep your body, to keep all things, body, mind, and soul, in full health, in full vigor, and make you successful in every way. That's perhaps the greatest thing. It's all right to know the laws of mind, but don't you think it's better to know how to contact God and realize He is in you and doing things? Having Him, surely He can make you healthy and wealthy in all ways, because it is He who is your own consciousness and my consciousness. It is He who has made the laws of mind. And so these spiritual points, I think, are most important. And that's the first one. God realization is the greatest factor in releasing the liberating power of mind. Why? Because God is behind your own mind, my mind. If you can unite your mind with His great cosmic mind, all things are possible according to His will. So that's the first thing to remember. The second great spiritual law is this, that God does listen. God does listen to the appeal of the humble devotee. God does listen. And if you have a weak mental pattern, if it isn't what it should be, if you appeal to God, He will strengthen you, because His source is unlimited, so that your will and desire will be strong. And instead of having a weak mentality, you'll have a strong mind, a strong, liberating mind. Now that's the second spiritual law, that God does listen to us. But finally, this is the most all-inclusive law, is that if you contact God, the high voltage of His holy vibration, the great Holy Ghost, the Comforter, it is that which will change you in all ways, and it will make you work in harmony with God's plan for you in His creation. Realize that if through God contact you can hear His cosmic sound and merge in it, then that high voltage of spiritual vibration of the great Comforter of which Jesus spoke, the great Word, will harmonize all conditions within your body, mind, and soul, so that you work according to God's will and His plan. You see, there's a little difference between just God contact. You have to merge in God so that you are one with the great spiritual vibration, the Holy Ghost. That will harmonize you in all ways as no other force in the universe can. Because in the beginning was that holy vibration, and that was God and is God. So realize that, and I'm sure that if you are in harmony with God's will and His plan, it necessitates a strong, energetic, liberating mind within you. So if you want to increase your power of mind, especially to be liberated from this delusion with all its trouble and everything that goes with it, know God fully. Know Him completely by merging in Him as the Holy Ghost. And if you do that, you will be harmonized in a greater way than any other thing can do. It's all right to know about psychology. It's all right to know about yoga. But it's much greater to surrender yourself to God fully and be one with Him. Then His plan, then His power flows through you according to His will. There's no greater force than that. God's power of the holy vibration, the great Holy Ghost. That's what we should strive for. Not to just contact God once in a while, but to fully merge in Him, fully be one with Him, so that His all-knowing, all-understanding, ever-attentive, omniscient presence can be with us every second of our existence. That's the greatest spiritual law. Start producing a liberating mind, liberating power of mind, is to be one with God. And so finally, we always come to the question, how? How to do that? Well, that's why self-realization came. Self-realization came to show you, show me, to show all willing devotees how to unite their mind with the infinite mind of God. And if you follow the different techniques of self-realization, you will find that you are gradually uniting your mind with that one mind of God. The technique of concentration, of self-realization, the highest technique of concentration, known as the Hong Saw technique of concentration, will help you to concentrate, and you cannot release the powers of your mind unless you have concentration. There are many techniques of concentration, but that technique of self-realization will, in a simple way, help you to so concentrate that you have control of the presence of God within you as mind. The power is there, the power is in each and every one of us, but we do not utilize it due to lack of concentration. Concentration is a great force. People are always talking about getting this technique or getting that technique, and I say to them, do you do your highest technique of concentration, the Hong Saw technique? Well, some. And I look at them, and their concentration is way over, all around, no place. Concentration is what we need to be able to apply our concentration on the presence of God within. So that's the main thing, is to learn that technique, that first technique, the highest technique of concentration. If you can do that, then you can utilize the divinity within you as the power of mind, the liberating power of mind. And finally, through the practice of self-realization techniques, especially through Kriya Yoga, because that's the highest scientific technique. But you cannot do Kriya Yoga until you've learned concentration. Don't think I'm getting away now from that concentration. That's the important thing. But through the techniques of self-realization. Plus, and this is what people do not realize, they think they can sit down and do the techniques and contact God and everything's fine. It isn't. There's one other thing. Through the self-realization techniques and the blessings of God and the Great One. That's very important. We will be able to expand our consciousness from this little body of ego with its limitations to the vast ocean of God's presence. Having that expansion of consciousness wherein we do not feel limited by this little body, we know we're not this little body, but where we feel oneness with the great ocean of God's presence, surely we will attain freedom. Freedom and liberation. Because God is free. God is both attached to this dream because He has made it, but one part of Himself He keeps free. And so are we. One part of us is attached to this dream. We have to play it. We have to live it. We have to pass through the motions, so to speak. But the other part of us is spirit. Spirit, one with God. And that part of us is free, thoroughly liberated, right now, this minute, if we can, through the power of God within us, expand our consciousness from attachment to this little limited vehicle and know, as Lord Shankara said, I am He, blessed Spirit, I am He. If we can do that, then we will have utilized the power of mind to its greatest extent to be free, completely liberated.